term as a foreigner, can we demonstrate political will that we are going to implement this agreement? And the implementation of this agreement means the following. Means stopping our citizens from killing themselves as we see now across the country. It means improvement of our economy. We are a rich country. We can't have a value of $1 to 60 or 600 something. Please, we are a producing oil country. We can feed ourselves without asking anybody to pull their hand to their pockets. And we'd like to take this opportunity to put the following concerns. As a civil society, when we heard about the roadmap, whether we call it is deliberately, the consultation that was given to us is only 2 hours. We appreciate that nothing. But please, next time, any national processes, consider us as sons and daughters of this country, and some of us are contributing for the peace and stability of this country. We are not a generation that need to jump to the bush in order to sign an agreement and promote it to a title, but we are generation of checking and balance, asking for transparency, asking for accountability, asking for commitment. The big question today we have for you at your various political establishments, at your various titles, what miracle are you going to do that we have not seen in the last 3 years? Show us that you are our leaders. We respected you at your various capacities. We wish that the primary responsibility to make us enjoy the vote when we voted after the struggle from 1983, which some of you are witness, that vote was we decided to remain as a citizen of our own country when we vote in the referendum. The value of that vote means our economy have to improve, means I should have access to the funds without any fear, means our women should not be raped, means our youth not fighting among themselves for unemployment. That means a lot. In conclusion, I would like to raise the following. All these tasks that have been demonstrated, we trust, we believe in you, that if you commit yourself, it is easy to turn this paper to something that one day we come back to this Freedom Hall awarding you thanks that you not believe that the citizens are the ones speaking. So take responsibility to translate this document into reality. We have the following asks for Your Excellency President. Since this agreement was signed, I know we have been known for shouting, for making noisy. We have never had access to really have a time to speak to our leaders. His Excellency President and First Vice President and our Vice President, we are appealing if we can get a response today. Can we have a chance as a civil society, as a youth, as a women, to have a meeting with the presidency, to express ourselves rather than shouting through the media? So we wish to hear a response for this call that we are making. But also we're taking an opportunity that this document today you sign should take into account the following recommendations. Can we open the window to sit in Rome and take Rome peace process serious as you're speaking for elections? Can we vote for elections where we are in peace and stability and we hold our hands together and we stand as the values of our national anthem says, so that we can have a pathway from there, our country's one. So we wish that Rome peace process will be opened up and we'll have that commitment. Finally, to conclude with, that I want to end up my speech is that we hope that this document now is signed. It should be a public document. We should have access to it because dissemination means ownership. If we can educate our citizens. But also remember, if we don't disseminate this agreement, people will camouflage to give fake news, wrong information. So we wish that this document can be disclosed to the public. Our final job that I like to bring to your attention as our leaders, Your Excellency President, allow me for this. We hope that the consensus that we have seen around the dredging can be used for the consensus for implementing the agreement. We need to see that consensus for the agreement. Up to here, the primary responsibility for making this country as a great country, a South Sudan that we won, a South Sudan that when we shoot the first bullet in 1983, is lying in your hands. And remember, the book of history is writing. Please let your names go to the books of good history. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
That was Edmond Yakani representing civil society organization. Let's clap to him and applaud him for this nice speech. What is important is that the document should be public, not to be messed in social media. Thank you, Edmond Yakani. Let me call upon the representative of other political party, Honorable Wilson Lodiong Sebit, MP. You are welcome.
Your Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, President of the Republic of South Sudan, Your Excellency Riek Machar Dragon, First Vice President of the Republic of South Sudan, Your Excellencies, Vice Presidents of the Republic of South Sudan, Right Honorable Speakers, Honorable Presidential Advisors, National Ministers, Chief Justice of the Republic of South Sudan, Honorable Governor, Central Equatorial State, religious leaders in the country, members of diplomatic corps, honorable members of the two houses, distinguished guests, media houses present here, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of OPP and on my own behalf, I welcome you here to this historic occasion that marks another new beginning of our agreement. And before I proceed, let me congratulate our President Salva Kiir Mayardit for initiating the roadmap to the parties to the agreement on the future of our country and the people. Let me also appreciate the high-level standing committee of the parties to RSS for having evaluated all the options and recommend the way forward, taking into consideration the fact that the transitional period of the RSS comes to an end 22nd February 2023. The new time frame for the transition period has been agreed to complete critical activities it deems necessary for extension of the transitional period. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I stand here to accept and agree this extension of the transitional period by the 24 months beginning from the end of the current transitional period 22nd February 2023. We have agreed to address the challenges that we have impeded the implementation of the agreement. We have reaffirmed our commitment to the RSS and reiterate our solemn commitment to the people of South Sudan and the international community at large, not to return this country back to war. We collectively work for peace and stability in the country, to free and fair elections, democratic elections at the end of the extended period, and let us build trust among ourselves and move this country forward. Your Excellencies, you have noticed we were handling one book here. We have our internal issues that we really need to be put right. We have divided the OPP into two, which is not a normal procedure. We are seeking your audience through your advisor of the national security so that we can put this house of ours OPP in order. Because we need to move together. Because there are certain things we are entering into office without our knowledge. To this note, I wanted to assure you that the members of our state assemblies are not inclusive. They were taken with another group, in which we are not happy about it, but we are looking for an audience so that we put these things in order. This one will be facilitated through your security advisor and Honorable Martin Elia. I'm appealing to your Home Office to reconsider the appointment of our state assemblies members. Some of our state ministers were also dismissed without our consent. Please consider our case as genuine as it is, for the sake of this country. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Wilson. Let's again applaud him. For the records, we hope their problem will be solved immediately. Now, let me call upon Honorable Deng Alor, representing the former detainees, for their speech. Honorable, you are welcome. Honorable Deng.
Your Excellency, President Salva Kiir, President of the Republic of South Sudan, and Chairman of SPLM. His Excellency, Dr. Riek Machar, I will not pronounce it the way it was pronounced before. Your Excellency, other Vice Presidents, Your Excellency, the Speakers, Speaker of Parliament and the Speaker of Council of State, Your Excellency, the Chief Justice, Your Excellencies, the advisors, Your Excellencies, the diplomatic members of the diplomatic corps. They are very important people. Some of us tend to forget about them and the role they played in the independence of the Republic of South Sudan. Your Excellencies, we have signed a historic agreement, a very important roadmap, but also a very heavy responsibility. To me, this may be the last chance for us as leaders of South Sudan, if we want to help our people. For the last few years, we have signed a number of agreements. The only agreement which was successful and which was a comprehensive peace agreement that brought the independence of South Sudan. And why it was successful? It was because we were united. We were one people. And I remember in 2002, when SPLM was divided, Dr. Riek and Dr. John decided to bring SPLM together. And we have the longest meeting and the most important meeting in the history of SPLM here in Yei to reunite SPLM. President Salva was in that meeting, Comrade James was in that meeting, and many of us, some of us were in that meeting. It was the longest. We met from 7 in the evening to 7 in the morning to determine the future of SPLM. Because we had to unite. Unity was what brought us to where we are today. We signed. We need the same unity. We have signed this agreement, but we need to unite, at least unity of purpose. It's true we are different political parties, but if you saw those who are sitting here, including the president, were SPLM. All of us were SPLM. So SPLM can become a problem, and SPLM can become, okay. So I want to appeal to those who fought this war and negotiated the peace agreement. 21 years is not easy. All of us were in the bush. Today we look very handsome and very nice. But when we were fighting, we did not look the way we are. This agreement, this independence, came through a very hard struggle. Mr. President, I want to appeal to you and the other leaders. Yes, I'm coming, other leaders. I want to appeal to you, to Riek Machar, to Deng Alor, James Wani, Madam Rebecca, and other leaders of SPLM. I want unity. I want us to unite as a party. At least a unity of purpose. It is only when SPLM unites, then we can implement this agreement. And I'm sure we have suffered enough. We have seen lots of difficulties. We have taken lots of lessons that will help us to unite this time. Mr. President, our people, the civil society has just spoken, and I'm happy that civil society is part of this, agreement. But civil society has spoken and Yakana has said some few words by way of advice to the leadership of SPLM. Civil society also are leaders in this country. So whatever these political leaders, political parties make, civil society should not be far from this. I want us to unite. I want us to complete the peace process. If you look at the people who are still outside now, are SPLM, whether it is General Malong, Awan, or Thomas Cirillo, or Pagana Moon, you count them, they are all SPLM. I want us to reconcile and bring these comrades back and unite our ranks. We have differed enough. Our differences have caused a lot of suffering to the people of South Sudan. And it is about time for us to apologize to the people of South Sudan and reconcile and unite the SPLM. So that we have this agreement that we have signed. If we do not unite our ranks and our ideas, 2 years is not a long time. It's only 24 months. And the agenda as outlined by the Minister for Cabinet Affairs, Martin Lear, is a big agenda that we need to implement. I don't think people will stand with us again, listen to us again for excuses why we are asked for another extension. I don't think so. So we don't want extension, and we want support our people. Let us help our people by coming together as leaders of this country. Mr. President, somebody asked me sometimes back, why are we still having refugees in Africa and beyond? Kakuma is still open as a refugee camp in Kenya. We created that refugee camp during the war, but we have not been able to close that camp because of differences. We have refugees in Uganda. We have refugees in Tanzania. We have a big group of refugees in Egypt. Sudan, I can't say Sudan. Most of the South Sudanese are still in Sudan. So some of them ask us, why did you fight for independence when we are still in this country? And this is because of our differences as SPLM that liberated this country, but also created trouble for its own people. Let us also appeal to ourselves to do the right thing so that our refugees come back home. so that they come to their own country. They are unable to come now because they are afraid of us. Number two, they are hungry. They can't survive here in this country. The last thing, Your Excellency, is I want to inform our friends who stood with us during the struggle, during the liberation. As I said before, this liberation and this day would have not been there if we are not helped and supported by the region, of course, in addition to support our people, by the region and by the international community. I want to thank the members of Western Europe and the United States for their good work done during the war and during the struggle. They help us and they have remained with us. We should not disappoint them. We should not disappoint anybody, including our people. I want to tell them that the agreement we have signed today is a good agreement. You put yourselves in our shoes. You would have done the same thing. You'd have signed the same agreement. We have difficulties. We have difficulties. I don't want us just to be criticized for the sake of criticism. Look at our objective realities, the realities that we are facing in our country. They have been outlined. You help us during the war, during the struggle. Don't tire. Continue with us. We will cross the river. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deng Alor. Let's give him a applaud of appreciation for this nice speech. I think my time is almost coming to an end here. But before that, let me call Honorable Josephine Lagu Ianga, representing. No, sorry. That was Gabriel. I'm using a wrong apology. Let me call Honorable Minister Gabriel Chang, representing South Sudan Opposition Alliance, SAWA. You are welcome. Honorable Gabriel, the floor is yours. You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, His Excellency, the First Vice President of the Republic, all His Excellencies, the Vice Presidents, Right Honorable Speakers, His Excellency Chief Justice, His Excellencies, the advisors, and then my colleagues, the ministers, and the committee. Today, we have revisited September 12, 2018 by pushing this agreement forward for another 2 years. Why do we extend the period? I think you need to know why we are extending. We in the committee analyze the metrics, the functions that were carried out and those that were extending. And we came to two critical decisions to make. One is to go for election in December 2022, 4 months from now. The second critical decision was to extend, because there are many voices that will say, oh, they are extending their life span in the government. Those were two critical decisions. and why they were critical. If we want to have a peaceful transition to a democratically elected government, there are benchmarks which we have not done. And I want to highlight them. One is the constitutional making process. We need a constitution that will define our system of government, that will define our constituencies, that will define the political space, that will define the rights of our citizens. So constitution is critical. And in our analysis, we found that it is the most consuming activity in the remaining tasks, 24 months. That's why we peg it at that. So it's critical. The second one, which is also as critical as constitution, is the unification of our forces. Why do we want to unite our forces? We want to separate forces from politics so that they become non-partisan. That is very important. But more important also is that if you don't unify these forces, you cannot conduct free, fair, and peaceful, credible elections. So these forces are intended to secure the elections. And if we have not done that process, then whatever elections we want to go, it's just a recipe for going back to square one. And I think none of us would like to go back there. So this is very critical, and I think we are making progress. Maybe this month or next month we will graduate and unify the first batch. That will be a progress indeed. We have all these things we have identified as not being implemented. They need resources. And without resources, we will go back to square one. So how do we get the resources needed for the implementation? Sometimes they connect it with political will. I appealed to the executive and to the legislature to find this money, this elusive money, to complete this chapter of implementing this agreement so that we transit to free, fair election thereafter. So we have a budget that is under discussion now. We should put our heads together, apportion money for this purpose. Otherwise, if we don't do it, then also we will be in, we will go back to square one. The other issue, which is important, is that we have the whole art groups. Rome Initiative is ongoing. We want that Rome Initiative to be concluded successfully so that we have a comprehensive peace agreement, so that there will be no people in the forest to disturb us for, and thereafter we go for development. So my appeal is to the two giants. When we were in peace talks in Addis Ababa, the foreign minister of Ethiopia divided us into two. There were two giants, the IG and the IO. So if they didn't agree on any proposal, then we don't move forward. Now I'm appealing to them that it is time to have this unity of purpose, we are one government, we are one people. If we don't resolve our differences, then the future will be very bleak. And this generation of ours will be blamed. So we appeal to you that whatever differences we have in the implementation of the agreement, we should always resort to the negotiating table and find a solution to those differences. My appeal also to the international community, the region, yes, we might have made our own mistakes, but I think peace in South Sudan is a cross-cutting issue. And if you let us be in war, then your interests in one way or the other in the region will also be affected, and you will be managing crisis. So support us. Don't give us guns. Give us medicines. Give us scholarships. What is making things difficult for South Sudan is lack of education. Over 70% are uneducated. How do you compare them with those in the West if they are not to be lifted? So sanctions us in certain areas, but support us in certain areas. Okay? Otherwise, you let us alone, then that's where we will look inward to ourselves. And finally, the political space is necessary, is important. And to my brother Deng, he was calling for the unity of two giants. Then what does it mean? It means that we will have one party government manipulating everything. Where is the democracy you are talking about? Okay? So why don't we take the example of the Kenyans? Kenyans, every 5 years, when they elect their leader, they make alliances. And they work until the 5 years are about to be over. Then they make new alliances. That's why you see Ruto is thrown away by Kenyatta, and Kenyatta is embracing Raila. Why don't we try that experience? But more importantly is that let us have, we are Democrats by nature. Let us build that democratic South Sudan. With all these resources we have, we can be there tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Your Excellency, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Gabriel Sanchon. Let us give him a applaud by praising his speech. Now, I want to appreciate my presence with you. The rest of the program, let me call upon Honorable Dr. Martin Elia, Minister of Cabinet Affairs, to proceed with the rest of the program. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Salah. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies, you recall that the agreement was initially to be implemented by the NPTC, which was later dissolved and continued as NTC. And the NPTC and the NTC is the body responsible for the
composition and establishment of government structures. This committee was chaired by Honorable Tut Galwak Manime. It is time now to come forward.
شكرا دكتور مارتن. السيد رئيس الجمهورية، سيادة فريق أول سلوكين ميادي رئيس دولة جنوب السودان، السيد نائب الأول دكتور يوم شاتا اندرغون، سواد نواب رئيس الجمهورية، السيد رئيس المجلس مجلسين، والسيد رئيس الجلسة القضاء في دولة جنوب السودان، زملائي في رئاسة الجمهورية مستشار رئيس الجمهورية، سادات الوزراء ودوماسين وغادة وحدات الأمنية في دولة جنوب السودان، جميع الحضور في غاء اليوم. نحن وقفنا أمام رئيس كلنا عشان نهني رئيس لإنجاز الكبير لقضية السلام، وأثبت لكل العالم أجمع أنه رجل تحدي ورجلا على السلام. وكلنا الناس بقلبوا ماذا مود فترة انتقالية لتنفيذ اتفاقية السلام. باقي الأيام من الشهور لانتهاء فترة انتقالية، لكن اليوم قبل أيام المضى صدر رئيس الجمهورية زملائه في رئاسة الجمهورية وطرف اتفاقية السلام يفكروا في خطة الطريق لتنفيذ اتفاقية السلام الذين نفذناه ولسه ما نفذناه. وكون اللجنة الأولى برئاسة حق المارتن بعد طرف اتفاقية السلام مراجع بنود اتفاقية السلام. واليوم قدامكم الحق المارتن طلع لكم كل ما تم في تنفيذ اتفاقية وفضل في أيام تنفيذ اتفاقية. وكل المواطن في جنوب السودان اليوم أمر يا سيد رئيس نحن كل مواطنين جنوب السودان لإنجاز الكبير، ولكل إنجاز ما تقدم ودائما يتسابق على السلام مع الزملاء الذين وقعوا اتفاقية السلام. نحن كل أطراف اتفاقية بإنجاز الكبير. ده أكبر ثقة وأكبر إقلال ووفاء على مواطن في دولة جنوب السودان. ونحن ننادي كل أطرافنا وإشراق وأخواننا في إيجاد في أفريقيا اليونيون في كل الأطراف الذين ضامنين اتفاقية، لأنه نحن لسه نمضي على اتفاقية وماشيين على استقرار. لأنه نحن إذا كان ماشيين لعدم مدى فترة اتفاقية معناها نحن رجعت على الحرب مرة ثانية. لكن ندي فرصة لتنفيذ اتفاقية وندي فرصة لاستقرار في دولة جنوب السودان. خط الطريق الذين قدمنا سير الرئيس وعرضت اليوم لكل مواطنين جنوب السودان ولكل الناس في عالم الأجمع، لأن اليوم جنوب السودان مضى في مدى فترة اتفاقية. ده أرواح الناس بتاع جنوب السودان يكون في عياء في مواطن في دولة جنوب السودان، مش بس مش على السلطة وعلى ما فترة في كراسي، لكن ده كلام لأن المواطن في جنوب السودان يكون في استقرار. ما الناس ما يرجع حرب مرة ثانية. وانتوا عارفين الظروف اللي عند جنوب السودان مرت فيه، لأنه كل سلاح في يد المواطنين كثيرا وفيه النزاع كثيرا، والبلاد مليان من المشاكل ومليان من الشوك. وكل يوم الصباح الرئيس ينظف في كل الشوك في الطريق عشان القطر بتاع السلام يضمن في امان في الطريق الكويس. نحن اليوم ما عندنا حديث يا سيد رئيس، المواطن يقدر يسمع كلام دكتور يوم شاتا. نحن جاي نهنيكم ونقول لكم شكرا نيابه عن اخواني في لجنه تنفيذ اتفاقيه واللجنه بتاع العمل شغل كبير ده برياضه اكون دكتور مارتن. ونحن جايين نهنيكم نقول لكم شكرا جزيلا سيد الرئيس مع اخوانك في اطراف اتفاقيه السلام، وشكرا جزيلا.
Professor Tut Galwak.
those who might not have heard what he said, but he is just, in summary, he said that today our president has shown and proved that he's a man of peace, and that for him to initiate the roadmap and call upon his colleagues in the presidency and extended a meeting of the presidency proved to the people of South Sudan that he will not return this country back to war. But he concluded by saying the people of South Sudan want to hear from two people. I'm sure you know them. Bendi President Salva Kiir Mayardit, Jala Dr. Riek Machar Tень. So the challenge is yours. Mine is just to introduce His Excellency, the first Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Riek Machar Tень Durgon. Mat Daurugon, ya Wilson. Welcome, sir.
شكرا مارتن. الأخ الرئيس سلفا كير ميادت رئيس جمهورية جنوب السودان، الإخوة نواب الرئيس الجمهورية، السيدة رئيس المجلس التشريعي الانتقالي، السيد رئيس مجلس الولايات، السيد شيف جاستس، الزملاء والرفاق في النضال وفي الكفاح، سادة السفرة، السلام عليكم. في حالات زي دي لأن نحن عايزين نخاطب شعبنا، الواحد بيحاول أن يتكلم بلغة عربية عشان يفهمونا أو يفهموا الرسالة. Well, if you're going to translate, then I talk in English, isn't it? طيب, let me speak in English first. I want to thank the President for initiating this process. Before he initiated this process, there was concern from South Sudanese, from the region, from the international community, because time is running out. And there was no way forward. So questions were being raised. Are we going to crash? Or are we going to get a solution? Those who met me in my office or at home, I refrained from giving a solution. But I always refer them to a document we authored in March 15th, 2022, where we outline the status of the implementation of the agreement. And we said the way forward is for parties to dialogue. This is where we stopped. Because the senior person is the president. And clearly, he knows the challenges that are facing the agreement, the implementation of the agreement. He knows them, as we also know them. But without him making the move, it would be difficult for the rest to make the move. Although we think in IO, we had made the move in March. We have said we need to dialogue so that we find a way forward. When the president presented his roadmap for democratic transition to elections on the 21st, it did not take us a long time. I remember I was the first speaker after him, after the elaborate presentation made by Dr. Martin. So after Dr. Martin I spoke, I said, look, we have only two options. Crash by 22nd February, or we extend. And if we extend, the issue of the constitution is the one that is consuming more time. And as experts say, it takes 24 months to complete a credible constitution. And the experts are Max Planck Institute. Therefore, we say this is from this activity, when we have established the NCRC, to the Constitutional Conference, and the end of the transition. You have this activity of the Constitution, you have the activity of transforming the Parliament into a Constituent Assembly, and the activity of elections. The rest of the activities fall within, including the security arrangements. That's why we came up with 24 months. Actually, the meeting finished because we are all cognizant that in the next 4 months, you cannot implement what is in this agreement. I thought they were going to talk about the percentages. 27.3% of the provisions are implemented. 31.3% of the agreement are work in progress. 41.4% is pending, not touched. So it means you have 72.7% of the agreement not implemented. You have no choice. You have to extend. Our concern was, if we extend, how do we sell it to South Sudanese? Because some people think extension It's good that we are 5 parties in the agreement. If it was one party, then that one party would be accused for manipulating the situation in order to stay in power. So, but I want to say, the extension is genuinely for this peace agreement to be implemented. Nothing else. Because the people of South Sudan have a right to elect their leaders. After independence, we called for a transition. Before the independence, or while we were discussing the transition, others were saying we should go for elections. But we saw it was premature to go for elections. The national institutions were not established. The cadre that is supposed to run these institutions were not there. Some of you will remember we had to establish a diaspora desk in the office of the president to attract South Sudanese that have gone to diaspora to come and help in establishing the system. Now, we have unemployment. We have the necessary cadre to run the system in South Sudan. So there would be no need of a transition. But because this agreement, the title is, I didn't pick the title, don't accuse me, but it tells you, revitalize agreement on the resolution of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. The agreement addresses the root causes of the conflict. So if you don't implement it, then the root causes of the conflict will still be pending. The reforms that are necessary for this state would still be pending. I recall in Rome, at the initiation of the peace talks in Rome, I had a discussion with Thomas Cirillo after the president left and I remained behind to persuade him to come back. But he said, since you are committed to the agreement, go. If you implement it, you will have no reason to continue being a holdout group. I believe he kept repeating it to our delegations then went to Rome, that he has no agenda. If this peace agreement is implemented, all the solutions, the root causes of the conflict are addressed in this agreement. Now our challenge is, we are going for extension of 24 months. Will we implement it? People talk of political will. Political will. I think if we have political will, we should implement it. If we didn't have the political will, when we started implementation of this agreement, Now circumstances have forced us to generate that political will. I agree with the first speaker from the civil society. When this agreement is described, difficult, complex, unimplementable, it gives you an expression of lack of political will. But if we take the challenge that we implement it, we should be able to implement it because it's our agreement. And what is good that the president has initiated this, not coming from outside, not IGAD, not RJMAC, not C5, not AU. We generated this will to implement it, to produce a roadmap, identifying what has been implemented, what has not been, what is in progress, and what has not been implemented, and have given ourselves the challenge to implement it in 24 months plus the remaining period of the transitional period. I think this is generation of political will. And therefore, we must move forward. This agreement cannot be implemented in a situation that the country, the structures don't change. The security system remains the same. It cannot implement itself. Because you need to disseminate it. You need these political parties to be active in the forefront so that the people can own it. So it needs political space. If there is no political space, you can't. At all, you can't. I think the last 30 months, I came to Juba on the 17th of February, and we formed the government on the 15th. And the SPLM-IO is there. I have not been invited to come and to go for a rally. And the reason is, people are afraid to hold political rallies. You can't transform. Political parties cannot survive if there is no political space. We took a stand as IO in Parliament when the Right Honorable Speaker made her summary of what she thought on the Political Parties Act. The IO MPs objected, and by the way, I have met them 4 times since they declared a boycott. I would call them, I shared the caucus to evaluate whether there is a reason for them to go back to Parliament. But they maintain, no, they will not go back. Because if they went back with what happened in the TNLA, I should kiss this agreement goodbye. This agreement gives us a way to work, whether in the executive or in parliament. If there are differences, there is also a way of doing it. It is not the attendance. It is the consensus that you generate in parliament. I personally, when I was told of what happened, I wrote to the president. I repeated to all concerned, because it was the first incident. And if this first incident is left to go, the SPLM-IG and its allies has a mechanical majority. It will pass anything they want to do. But then they would forget that there is an article which is 1.14.8 that tells you in Parliament, in doing your business, you must support the agreement. You must enact legislations that support the agreement and reforms in it. People read it, they forget this is a guideline. Now, if we start now, differences from the Political Parties Act, and we do not resolve them, and Parliament continues to work as if nothing has happened, what are we saying? What is the message? Yesterday I followed the budget being tabled. Shanson described SPLA as a giant. Okay, if the other giant is absent, what are you saying in that budget? You are not working to support the agreement. You are not working to do reforms in it. So we have challenges. Challenges in operation, in even interaction. Yakana described it as deficit of trust and confidence. Before the war, I had many friends in this room. But if somebody wants to come to my house now, he'll have to come by night. Why is that? This is because the system has not changed. You are afraid. You might be targeted. You might be accused of working with the other political parties. Mr. President, when this function was delayed, it was to resolve issues. Who is to sign? Who is to sign? SWA? Is it going to be Vice President Hussein? Is it going to be Honorable Josephine? They are one coalition. What prevents them to solve this? Is Josephine this is a political party. I'm talking here as a share of political party. If Josephine is the chair, then she should sign. Because it's not a governmental forum. So in the end, people had to come and say, okay, the person who signed last time, even if he is not the chair, for sake of harmony, let Changson sign. And the issue of OPP was discussed. I think if we have a good political space, these political parties will resolve these differences. They will resolve them. So political space is important. I hope, Mr. President, in your statement, you will make it. Say, yeah, I continue saying it. Mr. President, in your statement, it would be good to guide the nation on political space so that these security organs are not targeted by political parties. Because we would want to see our national security loved by all. We would like to see our police to be the protector of all. We would like to see our army, if one is in a bus, then a civilian will say, this man dies for me. Sit, take my seat. We'd like to see that. We'd like to see these organs supporting, serving our country. But with that direction, things will continue. Obviously, Parliament has passed the security bills, one security bill, SPDF bill or act now. The rest are still pending. I hope any of these that had been passed in the absence of IO should return to Parliament, including the political party bill, so that we do it together. Deng was talking about unity. I agree with him, unity of purpose is important. Because so that others, like Changson, are not deterred by the unity of SPLM. Because that would mean a one monolithic political party in it. But I want you to know one thing. The Kenyan example would not work with us. Many of the SPLM are ideologues. I want to explain. Many of the SPLM, whether it is IG, IO, they are ideologue. They have a perception, a vision of what this country should be. So it is not question of power. It is question of, you have a vision, where do you want to take this country to? And therefore, some will find SPLM, whether it is SPLM IG, SPLM IO, an animal which says, okay, this is the vision. We must do it this way. But if we want to do what the Kenyans do, it's good for their system. But for us, in this republic, it's different. I do remember when I was a young boy, very young indeed, in Kodok. Clement Umboro, Minister of Interior, visiting Kodok. We were his students. They came with slogans. Sheikh Lam was their forerunner. Slogans about independence. Actually, I have written several slogans, but I forgot them. But the slogan of Clement Umboro, I want to say it, maybe somebody was with us in Kodok. It says, freedom with justice, we demand complete separation. We were kids. That was his slogan. We sang it, jumped around about it, but it built us. Built us. Political parties are built on ideological basis. How you see the country, how it would prosper. So that is why probably there's a difficulty in unification of the SPLM, because political trends have come out of it, even probably in the real SPLM of Pagan. Political trends have come out. Maybe in FDs, they're failing to join SPLM-IG. They want to be keep separate because they have a political trend. So Kenyans have their own model. We have our own model. We can build it. We can build it. It's not bad. Well, I say it's political forum. I don't want to end without mentioning, first, I read the statement made by the civil society. Maybe another group which does not go with Yakana. When I looked at the document, I saw it was fears, based on fears, based on the fact that they didn't know what is in the roadmap. They didn't see it. But they were invited yesterday. Why did they not come? To come and contribute. However, it's because there is misinformation. Because even some people came to me who are responsible. They said, are you going to reduce the number of the vice? Are you going to reduce the number of ministers? But I say no. What we are doing is an extension. We're not reviewing the agreement. We're only extending it. No provision is going to be touched. I believe when Dr. Martin read the document, no provision has been touched except pushing the time for 24 months. So the document I read from the civil society, that group, they didn't wait. I think now when this document is public, their fears will be assured. But they may say, but these 24 months, but do you have a choice? Do you want to go to square one? No. In it. I want to end by also, I saw a letter written by our very good friends who supported us in this struggle, in this independence, Troika, expressing concerns. I think it was drafted or written from the fact that you have not seen the document. They should be encouraging issues. The issues they raised are issues that would encourage us go forward. I didn't see them issue a principle to boycott this occasion at all. And after all, we have been discussing with them. We have been clear that it is extension of the period, because even if we took it from the perspective of graduating forces, the food for the graduating of the forces may arrive today, and in Upper Nile maybe in a week's time. And when you graduate them, deployment also takes time. Okay, the biggest group of the forces is not yet there, because building confidence was not an easy thing. But they have done good, despite what has been happening. They maintained the peace. So we'll have, in phase 2, the biggest group. Maybe we'll have to expand the number of training centers, so that we do it by February 22nd, 2023, all forces would have been trained, graduated, deployed. These are concerns we have. And our good friends from Troika talked about them in their document. But they are real concerns. So I take them as encouragement. And we know the US has withdrawn their support on CTSM and on RJ-MAC. All we can do is to appeal to the US again. Resume the support. If the US is paying $1 billion on humanitarian, it shouldn't go for nothing. This country should be secured, and the country should move to democratic elections in a secured situation. If we went to elections now, you have multi political parties, multi forces. Who will respect the elections? They will not. It will be chaos. But I want to end by saying, let's continue working together, the international community. We appeal to you again. Continue support to us, to the region. We appreciate the work they have done. They made us reach this point. At times when there are difficulties, they would come. and give us counsel, and we move forward. Okay, this time, they only came to us as, okay, you are extending, yes. And they had the same concerns like we had. Will the people accept the extension? Will the international community continue support with the extension? But I think now that the roadmap for democratic transition, peaceful and democratic transition, is exposed to all of us, we should say we support it. By this, I want to end my statement, and Your Excellency the President, the forum is for you. I believe you can speak from your seat. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Dr. Riek Machar Teng Dorgon, all other Vice Presidents, protocol observed. We don't want to rush you into an election that will take us back to war. I have been fighting since I was a teenager. You can see myself now. Where have I reached to? And how many months are still for me to spend in this world? I have been fighting since I was a teenager when I joined the first Anyanya War. And I spent 50 years in the army struggle so that you could feel the same dignity that many others worldwide feel. Nothing can be compared to the happiness I felt as the SPLA delivered your independence. When we founded the government of the Republic of South Sudan, we had the opportunity to build a country we would all cherish and defend. But as your leaders, we lost the direction after independence. Instead of building an effective state and cohesive nation, we began fighting among ourselves for power. As a result, we took you back to an even more bitter war where brothers fought themselves
for seats, just to gain seats. The revitalized agreement was our chance to correct our mistakes, and I do not underestimate or dismiss what we have achieved already through this agreement. We have stabilized the country and established a framework to transform the state by building effective institutions. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we had to finance the agreement alone amid other serious priorities like a bloated government and catastrophic flooding. As a result, significant issues remain unimplemented. Among these, we must prioritize some to succeed as a country. I consider the reunification of the army, constitution making, and the conduct of a census necessary to implement decisions and establish a new government without reverting to war. Reunifying the army means we would protect the outcomes of the elections against spoilers who would use it as an occasion for violence. The constitution making process will determine what type of government we need. Decentralized, centralized, federal, parliamentary, presidential, etc. These choices, if wisely decided, will set South Sudan on a course of progress for centuries to come. The census will provide the evidence upon which we will determine the details of voting. State formation and nation building. We will redouble our reforms to complete this, to lead you to a successful election and build an effective government. While Article 8.4 says that 2/3 of the parties can amend the agreement, Dr. Riek Machar said before here, and others, unanimously decided to extend the transition period. Our shared intention is to take you to a peaceful election. While we want to implement the agreement entirely, we must be realistic. We did not even implement the mighty CPA fully. Yet it remains a historic accomplishment that none will deny or reverse. Therefore, we have decided to prepare the soil over the next 24 months to plant the seeds of South Sudan's elections with a unified army, visionary constitution, and firm understanding of our country upon which to build a government that can complete the work on poverty, ignorance, and hopelessness. While we deliver this message with heavy hearts, we nevertheless have clear minds. We know this transitional government is not what you deserve, but it is better than war. So we extend the transitional period as a pragmatic and realistic choice for 24 months of healing and consolidating. Others, like myself, spend their entire lives struggling for the dignity of the South Sudanese people. I close this message by calling on two of them in particular to come back to South Sudan and collaborate with us in creating conditions for a complete political transition from war to lasting peace. Comrades Pagana Mom and Gerald Thomas Chirilo should come back home and join hands with us. Should come back home and join hands with us in Juba, like some of their comrades who have done so. We were together in the liberation struggle, and while we differed, we need them to join us now to set history on a correct course. With this, I thank you all very much, and God bless South Sudan. Thank you very much.